February 5th, 2013, 6 o'clock meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. This time we'd like to ask you to please stand with us as we have an invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Dear Father, guide our thoughts and actions. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Glad that you've been able to join us this evening. I'd like to start off with looking for a motion to approve the minutes from the January 15th, 2013 regular meeting.
Motion to approve.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We have a proclamation. We'll turn it over to County Attorney. We have resolution number 13-024-211 Awareness Week. With that, I have a happy resolution. Our Deputy Clerk, would you mind reading that for this evening?
Certainly, sir. Resolution number 13-024. A resolution proclaiming the week of February 11th, 2013 through February 17th, 2013 as 211 Awareness Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. Whereas the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida has made the following determinations. Many times when individuals need help with meeting life's basic needs, they're not sure where to turn. 211 is an easy-to-remember, easy-to-use three-digit number recognized as the central linkage point in providing individuals and families with the guidance, support, and information they need to solve their problems. St. Lucie County is fortunate to have the 211 helpline, a service of 211 Treasure Coast that enables people to access information about, provides assessment for, and referral to community resources with telephone counseling for distressed callers, including suicide intervention. 211 helpline service is free, confidential, available 24/7 with highly trained staff who are here to listen and here to help, who last year alone assisted over 133,000 callers in need of crisis intervention, assessment, and referrals to community services. 211 Helpline looks forward to continuing to provide quality, caring assistance to the people of our community. 211 Helpline was also proud to reach beyond our local region to assist thousands of New Jersey victims immediately following the devastation of Hurricane Sandy. The caring 211 staff not only provide comfort, but also assisted individuals and families in finding shelter, medical help, water, food, warming stations, and so much more as they struggled to survive. During the ensuing two-week period, 211 had received over 3,100 phone calls from the individuals and families struggling in New Jersey. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of County Commissioners of St. Lucie County, Florida. This board does hereby proclaim the week of February 11th, 2013 through February 17th, 2013 as 211 Awareness Week in St. Lucie County, Florida. This board urges the citizens of St. Lucie County to be aware of the only telephone number they need to know to access information and referral to programs and services at over 2,800 sites in our community that provide assistance in such areas as healthcare, insurance, volunteering, food, daycare, mental health counseling, support groups, financial assistance, etc. Passed and duly adopted this 5th day of February 2013.
Thank you for reading that into the record. This time I'm looking for a motion from the board to approve this resolution.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, we have page... I'm excited. This is great. This is a lot of fun. Are you ready to tell us a little bit more?
Sure.
Sure. Well, with that, why don't we turn for a quick photograph first?
Right.
He was fast with that one.
Be careful here.
Page.
Thank you so much. Okay. Good evening. Thank you. It's nice to be here with you. And welcome to some of you new commissioners. It's nice to see you up here. Yes, 211 is still a very valuable resource for families here in St. Lucie County. We have seen an awful lot of need over these last few years, and for some, they're not seeing a lot of improvement. Our calls have, the average length of phone call, I think it's worthy to note, has gone from about 3.5 minutes to 5 minutes in length. People are in distress. They need someone to talk to and to work through the issues that they're facing. Sometimes they're in need of more non-traditional resources. They've tapped out maybe the ones that have been there for them and still aren't able to quite to get back up on their feet. So we're there to help them talk through what their issues, what their problems are that they're facing, and help them find a solution. And as I said, it sometimes can be a non-traditional solution. Other times, in many cases, a person calls with a problem in the front of their mind, and it turns out that there's actually 3 or 4 others that are actually more serious than the one they're calling about, and we're able to help them work through that and find a solution to meet those needs. Kids are calling. You know, they need maybe the last time they talked to their best friend and got advice, it wasn't the best advice they could have gotten. So we're there for teens to call, and you'll find that we are forging our way into the social media. We are on Facebook, and we're doing some tweets and all that sort of thing. So 211 is working hard to get the word out to our community residents that we're a helpline that is here. It's free. We're available 24/7. And even when there's maybe not an answer to the problem, the fact that someone can call and talk with someone who's caring, is there to listen, can feel a whole lot better, even just for the moment. Thank you for your support of 211, for helping us create additional awareness in the community and in the county, and for being such a wonderful partner to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Paige. All right.
Good job.
Thank you.
With that, we're going to turn to item number B under our proclamations and presentations. We have a presentation on grant writing services from Amy Adams and Joe Capra.
My favorite grant writers outside of St. Lucie County. Glenn, you're still my favorite. Where's he at?
Good evening.
Good evening. Oh, I need that too? I need the whole kit and caboodle, don't I? Okay, I guess we go and double click this one. There we go. We're here this evening on behalf of the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program. We are grant writers that are reaching out under contract for the last 13 or 14 years with this program. The team is essentially Cape Canaveral Scientific, Captech Engineering, and Scientific Environmental Applications. And we are not new to your group. We've been working with St. Lucie County for over 14 years, leveraging grant money. I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the outreach today from the National Estuary Program, who is the National Estuary Program, and why they're reaching out and offering gratis grant writing services. That's at no cost to the county. The agenda today is just to give you a little bit of information about our team, our workflow, the status of governments right now, local governments, where you're at, the benefits of partners, reasons for pursuing grants, because there's a lot of confusion about why we should even pursue them. What are some of the local funding sources you can tap into, what our track record is, and some of the current opportunities that are in the next 3 to 5 months. This is our team that we work with. Essentially, the National Estuary Program was a program that was adopted in 1972 by the Environmental Protection Agency as Section 320 of the Clean Water Act. That's how it was created. Initially, the first program was Chesapeake Bay program. The watermen felt as though they really needed to have some sort of environmental options there. And so from that birthed the 28 programs that came out throughout the United States, from Washington State all the way through Florida, Texas, Maine. There are 28 national estuaries of significance. That means, what does that mean? Why are they significant? Ecologically, they're significant, and economically, they're significant. Those that ecology gives back tremendous amount to that particular community base. So the area that we cover runs from Ponce Inlet in the north near Daytona Beach, and it runs 5 counties south all the way to Jupiter Inlet, just on the north fringe of North Palm Beach. That encompasses 3 water bodies: Banana River, Mosquito Lagoon, and Indian River proper. So it's about 156 miles wide, and it's a very skinny basin. It's traditionally not, in terms of definition, an estuary because it doesn't have any headwaters. It is a lagoon. Its average depth is about 3 feet, except where the intercoastal waterway is, and that's about 18 feet dredged. So when EPA brings in the money through the state, it has to funnel in through a state agency. So our partner in the state of Florida is St. Johns River Water Management District and South Florida Water Management District. The reason why we work with those 2 particular districts is because both of them have counties within their district. So that money gets matched by the district money, and so that's where contracts come out of. That's where our grant writing contract comes out of, and we report to the advisory board. Some of you have sat on that board in the past and may in the future with your new elected positions. So we report to Troy Rice, who's the director of that program, and then we work with businesses, cities, counties, and nonprofits to leverage grant money. This program was originally developed, the Indian River Lagoon National Estuary Program, by embracing the swim program goals. There were 3 goals in the swim program, primarily driven by seagrass, the growth of seagrass, and light attenuation to try and allow that particular, I guess you could call it canary in the coal mine. That was an indicative species there. So if you had clear water and you had high seagrass growth, then you would have a fertile system and a really nice, clean, non-polluted basin. That was the theory there. So they adopted the 3 initial goals of the swim program that had been in place, and the swim program essentially sunsetted. But they added a 4th goal. And this is very important because many state agencies and federal agencies don't add this goal. They felt as though they knew most of the implementation for cleaning up the estuary was going to be bared on the backs of local governments. We are a local government-driven state. We do most of our planning effort and most of our enforcement at the local government level. So they, in order to try and give additional assistance to those local governments, they added this one final goal. The 4th goal was to identify and develop funding sources so that they could help leverage additional dollars at the state and federal level for those local governments. We have found in the last 3 years, in particular since the downturn in 2008, that the status of local governments is really touch and go. Revenues are decreasing in the budget cuts to services and programs. We see reductions in contracts to local businesses. We see a lot of the money that would be going out to local business on contract getting pulled back inside to keep staff on board and run the county. We see a delay in postponement in capital projects, and we see a reduction in grant monies. And grant monies is very important because that's what you use to go after grant funding. So when we look at trying to work with your particular county or any of the other counties or local governments, there's 5 counties, 33 cities in this basin, we try and work with partners. And I know partners do make things a little more complicated, but they also bring grant money and match to the table. They also bring services to the table. You don't always have to have cash match. You can have staff match. You can have equipment match. You can have land match. So in this case, we try and, as we did with the Heathcote project, we matched a nonprofit organization that had land. It had 60 acres. We matched that up with the city of Fort Pierce. We brought in state money, so we have a 3-way match. We were able to reduce their overall cost out at 20%, where it would have been 50%. So they were able to leverage last year about $1.4 million through 3 different grants. So a lot of people ask you, why should we even pursue grant money? It seems like a big hassle. There's no free lunch. There's always going to be strings attached to it. You have to manage these projects. More than likely, you're managing them anyway. They're capital projects. I'm going to give you a couple of reasons, and it allows you to leverage federal dollars against state dollars, so it allows you to take your pot of $500,000 and blow it into $1 million. It allows you to provides a critical part to your workforce. Many of the jobs that are associated with these grants are high-value jobs. These are high-tech jobs, engineering jobs. These are construction jobs, so you're getting people out and moving them in your economy. It also offers a primary teaching tool for college students and high school students, provides new foundation for innovation, new patented technologies, new commercial products out there. It's a testing bed for them, or as well as a creation bed. And frankly, it creates and saves jobs. It resurges money back into your economy. These are some of the funding sources that we've gone after with you. We will continue to work with you as you begin to approach the TMDL dollars. Troy Rice really wanted us to reach out and let you know we are here. There are opportunities for you to continue working with us and get those gratis grant writing services. The monies that are available are still the TMDL dollars, the non-point source dollars. As you're trying to meet some of these TMDLs, this is the total maximum daily load of pollution that you can dump into the estuary and still meet DEP's requirements. As you try to approach that and try to tackle it, the best thing to do is go after current dollars. So EPA and DEP are saying you need to meet this mandate. 2 or 3 years, that money might not be there to help hold your hand to meet the mandate. Right now, they're under the gun to put money out there. Federal dollars are currently available to those states that are trying to meet TMDLs. All states will be required, but right now EPA is offering the carrot. In another 5 or 10 years, that might not be there when you're ready to do your capital projects in 5 or 10 years. So those particular organizations that sort of have their act together, are really well organized, have their budgets in check, are able to go after those dollars now with very little competition. They're gaining the awards. So I urge you to try and look at those dollars and try and leverage them as best you can. Some of the other monies we go after is the emergency management money, the FEMA money, state revolving loan program. The loan program allows you to get your capital projects going on a loan and then pay it back with grants or money that comes in through your revenues. The Florida Forever program, I just was notified by the governor's office that they will be putting $50 million into the budget. Don't know if the legislature will allow that, but they're putting it on the table. And of course, sea level rise. That's the that was mentioned 8 times in the inaugural speech for Barack Obama. That's the largest number of sentences repeated in any inaugural speech about any subject, 8 times. That means that more than likely in the State of the Union, we will see some dollars going into sea level rise. He mentioned it during his first round. Nothing really happened with sea level rise, but it is on a front, and it is coming forward. So if the money is there, you might want to go after the planning phases of sea level rise, doing revetments and getting your shorelines intact, working on your wetlands areas. And then, of course, the Indian River Lagoon license plate dollars. Those are out there. We are an organization that's been under contract with the Indian River Lagoon program for 14 years now. We have a 95% win rate, rate of return. So for St. Lucie County, we really haven't seen a whole lot of action from St. Lucie County probably for about 4 or 5 years. And then we started getting some interest back, and we were able to do 3 or 4 grants for you in the last few years, and you did gain all awards. So this looks a little bit at the track record. The Indian River Lagoon program used to pull us for 7 or 8 applications. EPA dollars have reduced, so now we do 5 applications. Again, that's at about a 95% win rate, everything that's submitted. During the last 13 years, we've brought in $182 million in grants for the Indian River Lagoon region. These are some of the grants that were last year's awards. I just picked 4. Pine Island up in Brevard County. This is an area that was strongly hit by Tropical Storm Faye. You could literally walk around up to your armpits in water. A lot of groves were damaged up there. There are 2 borrow pits up there, and so we use them to try and divert water off for retention and also holding back water, and as well as stormwater attenuation to cleanse before it's put back into the system. So we used a wet pond technology up there. Map Road in St. Lucie County, of course, we went after that funding source, and it is ranked #1 for the March 1 deadline for TMDLs. We've been told by DEP it's in the chute to be funded, and that's working on a conveyance system for Map Road with a treatment train approach. Indian River County, this was a Habitat for Humanity project treating 130 acres with 3 different types of techniques, a wetland, a wet pond, and then building a Boys and Girls Club center to try and educate people about the stormwater story. And then Citrus-Sager was another project that was a 319 federal dollar project. There's a $500,000 award coming in for that. And we used 2 brand new technologies out there that won state awards 3 years ago from the Florida Environmental Engineers Association. That was the flock logs, which are these logs that actually allow water to stream over them and they pull out phosphorus and nitrogen, as well as the Pond Doctor, which is something that fits into a wet detention pond. Brand new technologies, EPA loved it. These are some of the upcoming grants. This is something that I send out to all of your staff, or a number of your staff. We send it out to Jason, Bessie, and so forth. And so it gives you a heads up over the next 3 or 4 months. It's usually a 90-day period. The solicitation period is set out, and then we try and encourage them to go after dollars there. You can even see invasive plant control money in there. Of course, Florida Inland Navigation District's coming up. U.S. Economic Development Assistance Project, every quarter, every 3 months, Florida gets $8 million to go after jobs and create jobs in economically deprived areas, try and surge business back into the air, whether it means you're extending sewer pipes or you're taking away septic tanks and getting people onto sewer, or you're revitalizing your area. That's what you're trying to do. So it might be a blighted zone. You try and bring funding back into this area. We're actually doing something like that with Manatee Pocket, because many of the commercial fishermen cannot get to their boat slips to unload. So we're looking at dredging the pocket with some of that money. Okay. And I'm happy to answer any questions for you.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to, Amy, I want to thank you. I have worked with you on the Heathcote project for now 4 years.
Yeah.
And we're about to see it come to fruition. And we couldn't have done that without you.
Very good.
We're ready to go. We have all our partners in place. And looking forward to accessing more dollars over the next 4 years.
Sure, yeah.
Thank you, Amy.
Yep.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate it.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
That concludes our proclamations and presentations. Yeah. Have a great group tonight. I love the audience. Isn't it great to be liked? And for those of you watching, you're missing all the clapping. I mean, it's great. With that, let's turn to general public comment. Anyone wishing to continue the great comments that we have tonight, please feel free to do so. We'd like to have your name and address for the record.
Ladies first, guest in.
Good evening.
Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity. Bonnie Howard, Lakewood Park. Cannabis now. So you believe marijuana is illegal to protect you? Ha. Marijuana is only a danger to Rockefellers, big oil, and other unscrupulous profiteers who suppress the truth. Unlike Big Pharma, that kills 100,000 people a year, the AMA successfully used cannabis medicine for 100 years without any adverse reactions. Marijuana is not a narcotic, but one of the safest therapeutically active substances known, relieving MS, chemotherapy, pain, and depression. The ravages of alcohol kill 500,000 yearly, and tobacco kills another 500,000. Marijuana has killed no one and cannot be overdosed. Hemp was conspired against by Hearst's racist newspaper, who also slandered Mexicans and blacks. He deceived the public, who never would have banned hemp with its history of 25,000 uses, including super durable textiles, plastics, non-chemical pulp, food, and freeing us from foreign oil, had they known marijuana was hemp. Hearst, Andrew Mellon, and DuPont Chemicals held secret meetings that manipulated Congress into outlawing a weed that could help save our forests and our environment. Hemp grows quickly, 4 times the pulp in one season what a tree would take a lifetime to produce. The hearts are the most nutritious of all seeds, capable of feeding a starving world. Yet these mafia-style billionaires scammed legislators into banning a medicinal herb that threatened their fossil fuel profits. The planet and humanity has suffered ever since. For 12,000 years, this remarkable non-toxic, biodegradable plant was cultivated worldwide. Florida could be reaping profits through taxation and regulation, harnessing the world's most useful crop. We are weary of the colossal failure of the war on drugs and the perpetuation of a profitable, deadly criminal element. The persecution of 25 million innocent Americans results in a corrupt judicial system and a lack of respect for the law. Light the peace pipe now. Thank you.
Good evening, George.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, County Commissioners, and County Administrator, and my friend Eric, wherever he went. My name is George M. Baker. I live in the city of Port St. Lucie, and I've just got a few things I want to bring up tonight for your consideration. I think it'd be a good idea if we considered and thought a little bit about a strong county management system in this area, in this whole county. And that's, you study up on a little bit, a lot of cities have done it. It's where you absorb the cities into the county administration. And I think we need one bad right now. But it does, brings everybody together. It's a smaller group running the county, and it does work in cities. There's a lot of problems, but anybody got a joint? Bam, I feel like, Jesus, I never had one in my life, but I feel like I got to have one. Anyway.
I don't think I've ever seen Miss Outlaw actually turn around completely backwards in her chair.
I think it's time.
Do we need to take a break, Miss Outlaw?
These meetings will go better, I think.
George, we didn't turn this into comedy hour. I tell you, this is stand-up.
Anyway, a couple other things I want to bring up. I really believe the county administration needs a selection board for promotions of our working force. If anybody doesn't know how that works, I can explain it. I had to go before one time to get a job, and that works really good. It gets the best qualified candidate for that particular position. An advisory board, I brought that up before. It's a little different than some people think. It's a system where the working people of the county can address their problems to management and get heard and get the problem solved. It works very well. I worked for Lockheed Martin. We had one. It worked good. Everybody was elected from each department to represent their fellow employees. And since I talked so much, I was elected to represent the inspectors. And I think I did a pretty good job. I got some changes made, and it helps the working people. You ought to consider it a little bit. And, you know, we always talk about changes. I didn't bring my glasses. Anyway, left them in the car. I want to tell you how things can be improved. I'm not patting my son on the back, but he's he's a supervisor, superintendent, whatever they call him, for a big city down in Florida. He has 11 parks, 66 acres. He only needs 2 vehicles. He has a workforce of 6 people, including himself. They maintain all these parks simply by having a better system than we're using. And, you know, he's an ex-Marine. He gets the work done. He assigns it. He gets... Is that my 5 minutes? Come on.
Can you believe it?
Okay, well, I'm done. Listen, before I go, I want to tell you folks how much I appreciate not seeing our county commission in the headlines. I think that's a credit to the people. You're doing a real good job. I've never seen them really knock you folks, so you must be doing a good job, and I appreciate it. It couldn't have been 5 minutes.
I think you had 3 minutes of...
I'm not going to ask what you've been doing in the meantime.
I want to thank Leisure Services. I want you folks to get with Eric and go out to LaStrange and see one of the better parks or preserves in this area. Go out there for a photo op and try to get the citizens of this county to get out there and see this place. You are going to be amazed at what they've done with it. And I have pictures to prove it. I'm sorry I ran over.
Can you give us the location of it?
Yeah, it's on Salvage Road A little bit south of 10 Mile Creek, there's a big sign that says Lestrange Preserve. Part of the road and bridges, put in a nice new road for your vehicles to go out there. Got picnic benches, we got canoe launch place, we got everything. I don't, but you all do, the taxpayers do. And I think you need to thank Karen and Amy and Kenny and Jose. And that's, my time's well, that couldn't have been 5 years. You got
Thanks,
that.
George. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Lauren Macon, and I am 12 years old in the 7th grade at Lincoln Park Academy, and I live in Lakewood Park. Before I begin my speech, I'd like to hand you some facts about recycling that you may not know.
Oh, she's doing that. George, you have additional time that you could be talking to us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lauren. This is great.
Throughout St. Lucie County, the 7th grade civic classes participate in something called Project Citizen. This is a project that goes beyond your school and reaches out to benefit your community. In my class, our topic was recycling awareness. So far, we have created a Twitter page in which we frequently post recycling facts and add additional information. Our class plans to make a Facebook page as well. These social networks interact with our modern technology. My fellow classmate and I have recently competed in the county competition. We had to present our board and binder to 3 judges. When it came time for the awards, we placed first and earned a spot in the state competition in Tallahassee. Recycling is such an important topic, I came up with the idea of asking you commissioners to create a local holiday dedicated to promoting recycling and recycling everything you possibly can. Kids like me are the next generation, and in order to preserve the world, we cannot continue to treat it as trash. Soon it will become destroyed and unlivable. To prevent this from happening, we all must take action now to improve the physical being we call Earth. Some solutions to this problem include putting out more recycling receptacles in public areas, reusing items, and promoting the general idea. Just because I'm young doesn't mean I can't start taking civic responsibility. As the human race prospers, the Earth downgrades. Just by taking a simple survey in the 7th grade at my school on recycling shows the results that we know what needs to be done. St. Lucie County has currently 1 landfill that is growing at a rapid speed. Most of what is in the landfill is recycled material and could have been reused. Now it lies under the ground, decomposing and contaminating the Earth. It also releases toxins and hazardous chemicals into the air, which can sicken us. It also kills trees and disfigures the ecosystem and causes more problems that lead to more pollution. Think of that last bottle of water you just finished, or that last cup you just used. Probably you just threw it away without even thinking how much it could affect the world. So please take a moment to compose your thoughts from the lecture I have just given you. Consider the facts. Could this holiday not only help the environment, but improve the well-being of humans? Take on the idea of going green, recycling, and fixing what we humans have physically damaged. Prepare our world for prospering communities and future generations. Next time you go to recycle something, put it in a recycling bin, not the trash. Thank you.
Wow.
Excellent.
That was great. Lauren, who are you here with? Are you here with your teacher or parents? And who are your parents? Right there, Mom? Great. Phenomenal job. Yeah. Tell you, with that kind of a leader coming up, wow, we need to watch out. That was phenomenal. By the way, you may be interested in knowing that we actually have one of the highest recycling rates of any county in the state with the efforts that we are providing at our St. Lucie County landfill. It is becoming world-renowned, so it actually has some really phenomenal things. And if you want, we'll get you some information so you can see how successful we've been as a county in making some things happen here. So you'll enjoy it. Thank you for your time. That was wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, along those lines, I was taking some notes, and our landfill took notes from your statements in your lecture. They are recycling over 47% now of the landfill, second in the state in recycling. We have been able to, with our partners in Port St. Lucie, because they work with us with their trash, have been able to recycle and receive over $450,000 in cash money to the city of Port St. Lucie. And if the city of Fort Pierce had participated in that program, they would have received $250,000 in recyclable cash money as part of that project. And you talked about the landfill, the gas that is actually collected. We sell that to Tropicana to create energy, and they reduce their energy bill so they can make orange juice a lot less expensive so they can ship it all over the country. How about that? Thank you.
Well, good evening.
Good evening, Commissioner.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Good. I'm great.
That's good. John Arena, Fort Pierce. For a while, rechargeable batteries were displayed prominently on store shelves. Now you have to search the shelves, and if you're lucky, you may find one brand or another. Before I started using rechargeables, I went through more than $100 worth of AAA alkaline batteries to power my digital recorder. I guess the big companies decided they would rather sell truckloads of alkaline batteries on a regular basis instead of rechargeables on a one-time basis. I think cocaine traffickers are getting unhappy with me. They are starting to flex their muscles. My cell phone was shut down, then a few days later my landline phone, TV, and computer. AT&T is a good company, but there are always a few bad apples. I called them with other people's telephones and spoke to a machine, and another time, when I spoke to a person, what I got was platitudes and assurances that it would be taken care of. It went on for almost a week. On New Year's Day, Jetty Park was quite busy. Most of the people were from Mexico. It was like I was living in the United States of Mexico. Some 50 years ago, I was driving past my elementary school and decided to go in to see how it would feel as an adult. I walked the halls, went up the stairs, looked into the classrooms where I had spent many hours. I guess I was lucky. Classes were in session and no one approached me. Today, with junk food and drugs and TV cartoons serving up outlandish scenarios which are seen by small children in their formative years, school doors should be locked with a buzzer system to the principal's office. This would have averted Columbine and more recently Sandy Hook. It's about the same thing you do at home. When a principal sees a person dressed in black carrying a rifle, it's not likely that the door would be opened. The walkways on South Bridge are getting a light spray of sand from the trucks renourishing the beach. People on the walkways who are trying to get exercise are breathing the particles which lodge in their lungs. The white material is also visible in the curb on A1A, which means people riding in vehicles behind these trucks are not getting clean air. The truck drivers should secure their tarps in a manner that will contain their cargo. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arena. Anyone else wishing to address the board this evening? We'll close the public comment. He didn't even flinch.
He's used to it.
I said we'll close public comment.
No, thank you. I won't be long.
Good evening.
Good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. Harold Smith, Fort Pierce. I don't know if you're aware that I'm a member of the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council SEDS Committee and have been for a number of years. SEDS is a Comprehensive Economic Development Strategies Committee comprised of Palm Beach, Martin, St. Lucie, and Indian River counties. We meet once a month or bi-monthly, depending on the workload. As your representative on this committee, I can assure you that I constantly and passionately look out for the best interest of St. Lucie County and primarily Fort Pierce. There's no misunderstanding that my primary goal is representing Fort Pierce. This group is made up of economic development executives and highly motivated business people from all 4 counties. The discussions are intelligent, sometimes aggressive, but constantly informative. I learn a great deal from this group at every meeting, and yes, Fort Pierce in St. Lucie County gets beat up pretty regular. I always learn something. This committee was instrumental in the 750 grant study early on. Our work included identifying the strengths, weaknesses in our community with input from all the representatives from St. Lucie County. This input included, but was not limited to, quality of life, art, transportation, the port, the airport, Indian River State College, and the availability and influence of our Western community. We were weighing heavily on our unique and wonderful lifestyle. It is important for Fort Pierce and St. Lucie County to stay involved in the Sustainable Communities Initiative. If you don't exercise your voice, you will not be heard. This is truly a regional plan that goes from the Keys to North Indian River County. Last year, I introduced a plan for this committee and also addressed the legislative delegation. This plan and this motion is to elevate and promote small businesses and entrepreneurs. Small businesses and entrepreneurs make up the backbone of the American dream. It is the American dream to create and own a business and be successful. Not all businesses are successful, but the spirit never dies. It is with this spirit in mind that I encourage you to acknowledge every entrepreneur, win, lose, or draw, for their sacrifices and dedication. No one puts more time, sacrifices more than the small businessman. One more second, Mr. Chairman. Too big to fail. Collectively, the small businessmen and entrepreneurs make up tenfold the hiring and spending power of America. Sir Richard Branson, through the Virgin Money, has partnered with the UK government to finance entrepreneurs. It is my hope that we can initiate the same here in the U.S. The synergy starts with grassroots movements. Let's recognize and elevate entrepreneurs right here in our community. Last but not least, this past week I asked for help and funding for maintenance dredging to not only the inlet, but to the navigational waters and waterways as a direct link to our marine industry and economic base as a region of concern. The request was enthusiastically received. I was instructed to ask both the city and the county to officially request funding and intergovernmental coordination from the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council, addressed to attention Michael Bush, Director. The SEDS Committee is the gateway to funding of regional impact projects. This request, I feel, is important to our community, and I encourage you to follow through with the letter to the Regional Planning Council. I just want to quickly let you know the other members of this SEDS Committee are Derek Moore, Terry Penny, Michael Corbett, and Nate Bray. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Smith, I think that maybe I'll need to ask Faye, Ms. Outlaw. We have approved $140,000 match to the state for the emergency dredging. I guess I'll look to my port. Don, you out there? We did approve the $140,000 match for the total of $280,000 for that emergency dredge. Is that correct? Okay, so we're on top of it tonight.
Well, I do understand that, and part of the problem is, and I haven't had an opportunity to speak with you yet. I wanted to get the letter written because they encouraged us to write the letter. But there are a lot of other areas. For example, the Turning Basin over by Fisherman's Wharf. There's a lot of shoaling that's taken place right there. Over by Little Jim Bridge, North Bridge, place where you put boats in. Oh, boat ramp. those places are shoaling pretty badly. And the connection that I was able to bring to the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council is the fact that it ties in as a regional impact. Fort Pierce in St. Lucie County is a passageway and a gateway coming from Jacksonville all the way down to the Keys. A lot of people come here, stop here. They want to use our restaurants. They want to use our facilities. They want to stay a little while. And so many of the areas that they're trying to get into, they can't because the shoaling has taken place. And I'm very familiar with the maintenance dredging, emergency dredging you're doing for the channel. But there's so many other areas around St. Lucie County that need some attention. And if we don't put the attention to it now, and Mr. West is very familiar with some of these, and he's always complaining that he doesn't have enough money. I'm not saying this will be a godsend, but it can't hurt to at least ask for the help, and especially if they can give you some help in the intergovernmental communications back and forth, because part of the problem with this shoaling and these channels is nobody wants to take responsibility for them. And I know that you got a letter last year in regard to the worm reef that sits right inside of the channel that coming in, and a lot of boats have had a problem. I believe that it's going to be an accident there one day because it really is a worm reef that just sticks out of the water. And unless you're familiar with our entranceway to our inlet, you don't even know it's there. And to just go outside the channel by 10 or 15 feet, you will hit that worm reef and disaster. There's been boats that have really just plowed right up on top of it, and I'm just surprised people haven't been hurt there. So this is another mechanism that I'm sure Mr. West can use to help identify and take responsibility for some of these things that we have in our community.
Thank you, Buzzy. We'll do that. We'll work.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, one of the other things, when I was in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago, we went there for emergency money from the Army Corps for a number of reasons. And we were made aware that the port monies, a portion of all cargo, pays into this fund. And there's $5 billion, at least last count 2 years ago, over $5 billion in this fund, which the federal government is not releasing. They're using it more to balance the budget than to use for port issues. So maybe those who are listening can contact their senators and congressmen at the federal side and encourage them to look at those dollars that are being saved or set aside to actually help us with port maintenance, such as what you're talking about.
Hopefully the Treasure Coast Regional Planning Council will have some arm in that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thanks, Buzzy. Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Thank you.
Hello. Thank you.
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. Is this related to one of the agenda items tonight?
No, you could consider it slightly related. However, I wish to have it addressed separately.
But if it's one of the agenda items, then we'll wait until that time, unless it's not.
No, it's not.
Okay.
I know you have some agenda items that are relative to the area there. But in fact, the first picture on top there is Hibiscus in St. Lucie. It's in the county. It is a business. And I just want to point out to your attention, although they have lots of parking there in that building itself, they have to park out in the swales because of the number of people. It was originally 3 businesses were allowed to be on these double lots, and it's
Can you provide your name and address?
David Kaplan,
David, thank you.
410 Southeast Naranja. There's the second package there, starting with pictures in 2008. We've had a problem with the bump at the bridge at Prima Vista by the park, River Park Marina. You can see the pictures there in 2008. Have some pictures again later with the straight edge. Is totally out of spec as far as what streets are allowed. You go to the next page in the back, you'll see a chain of emails, correspondence with the county, where we asked them back in March 2011. We have comments from the DOT stating that the bridge is safe, the bridge isn't failing, but the roadway is, and there's a dangerous bump there. If you look at the black marks in the road with the arrow there, you can see where the oil's being shaken off the car as it comes off that bridge. There's a heaving there. And March 2011, we were promised that an engineering firm would look at that. Haven't had any results yet, anything done. I know you're going to be talking about commercialization of Prima Vista, but the road is in need of work right now as it stands without any additional traffic. Appreciate you looking into that. By the way, our River Park Neighborhood Association is going to have a festival March 24th, River Park Marina. We too will hopefully have Waste Pro there, trying to encourage people to recycle more. Fishing contests for kids, pie eating contests, all put on for free for the residents of all of St. Lucie County. Nobody will be refused, and the neighborhood association's paying for it with help of the Guardians, the Port St. Lucie Anglers, and a couple of local bait and tackle shops. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, David. Anyone else wishing to address the board this evening? Seeing no movement, with that we will close the public comment portion. We'll turn to the consent agenda. Is there any item that any board member wishes to have pulled for a separate vote?
Mr. Chair, I'll be abstaining from warrants list 18.
Warrants list number 18. Is there a motion to approve warrants list number 18?
So moved.
Have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. With that, let's turn to the remainder of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, just for comment, Mr. Satterley or Ms. Wilson can just approach this one. There were some comments to my office today confused about item 6C2, and that is the adjusted urban boundary designation by FDOT. I've tried to clarify the conversation with my constituents, but if you could please just give a brief discussion as to what's happening here.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Mark Satterley, Planning and Development Services Director. The item that you're referencing is the request from the Federal Highway Administration and the FDOT for the county's concurrence on an updated urban boundary that comes out of the census, the update of the census. It reflects the change in population in the county. It's coming from FHWA, and the FDOT merely recognizes that the county's growing, and what the Highway Administration uses that for is how they allocate funding to certain roadways through the functional classification of those roadways, and the DOT uses it for the design, their typical design in their roadways as well. So we tried to make that clear in our staff memorandum that it has, knowing that it might create confusion about the urban services boundary, but it has nothing whatsoever to do with the county's urban services boundary, and it is merely something that primarily goes through the TPO. Staff had worked on it on the TAC with the TPO, so it's it's something that we're doing to help out the FHWA and the DOT.
And in essence, really, it's because we have an increase in population, and we might have an opportunity to actually increase the funding for our roadways, which will appropriately deal with the new traffic that we have in our county.
Yeah, that's correct.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
All right. With that, let's turn on. We will begin our public hearing process tonight.
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion first.
By the way, on that last item, did we note that you had abstained from that?
I would note so. I put it on the record.
I want to make sure that it was clear that you were abstaining from that.
From warrants list 18, but I will also make a motion to pass the consent agenda, the remaining.
I have a motion, and we have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion on that? Seeing none, with all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Let's move on to the public hearings.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, fellow commissioners. Britton Wilson, Senior Planner for the record, presenting two concurrent small-scale future land use map amendments, both petitioned by Mr. Sean Hearing, that are proposing a change from residential urban to commercial. This map identifies the 500-foot mail notification area, and staff has received 37 letters in support of the proposed change and 3 in opposition. The subject properties are both located on Prima Vista Boulevard. Item number 7A is for the two parcels located on the north side of Prima Vista Boulevard, owned by the Hayhursts and Larsons. And item 7B is for the parcel on the south side and is owned by the applicant, Mr. Sean Herring. Both parcels are located in the River Park Community Overlay Zone, which provides for greater standards of review than other areas of the county. So the Herring parcel is just west of the lighted intersection of Rio Mar Court and Prima Vista, and the Hayhurst Larson property is on the northeast intersection of Lomas Street and Prima Vista Boulevard. And to orient you, right to the east outside of this picture is US 1. Both of the subject parcels have a future land use designation of residential urban and are requesting a change in future land use to commercial. And the closest existing commercial future land use is shown here in red to the right and is approximately 940 feet to the east of the Larson property. And the Herring property is approximately 655 feet from the Hayhurst property, which makes the Herring parcel over 1,600 feet from the closest existing commercial future land use designation. When considering both proposals concurrently, the analysis staff conducted indicates that the commercial future land use is consistent with the comprehensive plan. Both amendments do meet policy 1153, which requires a property to be within 1,300 feet of the same or greater type of land use classification. The amendments also meet policy 1154 by having water and wastewater services available through PSL utilities. And due to the restrictive rezoning options to commercial office and commercial neighborhood only, the amendments are considered compatible with the surrounding residential neighborhood as per Comprehensive Plan Table 1-3. As mentioned earlier, the subject properties are located on Prima Vista within the River Park Community Overlay Zone. The purpose of the overlay zone is to allow for an orderly transition from residential to non-residential uses by requiring the subject parcels, which are not located at a specific intersection, to go through the future land use map amendment process prior to rezoning to the commercial office or commercial neighborhood zoning districts. And because the permitted uses in the CONC and zoning districts typically only service the surrounding neighborhoods and don't attract regional customers, the CONC and zoning districts are therefore compatible with the RU future land use designation and don't normally require a land use amendment prior to rezoning. But because the parcels are located in the overlay zone, a future land use map amendment to commercial, in addition to the rezoning, is required per section 40205 of the Land Development Code. And as I just mentioned, the permitted uses within CONC and zoning districts are those that are typically only service the surrounding neighborhoods and don't attract regional customers, which provides for their compatibility with the residential area. And examples of such uses allowed in CONCN are banks, laundry services, salons, real estate offices, retail trade under 6,000 square feet, florists, and health services. Furthermore, the overlay zone specifically prohibits eating and drinking places, it prohibits fueling stations, and it also prohibits drive-in facilities. Prima Vista Boulevard is a 4-lane divided arterial roadway operating at an acceptable level of service C. The Florida Department of Transportation 2011 traffic counts identified an annual average daily traffic count of 30,000 trips on Prima Vista at the intersection of Rio Mar Drive and an average peak hour trip of 18,000. The State Department of Emergency Management identified Prima Vista as one of only 2 east-west emergency evacuation routes, and a traffic impact report is not required for small-scale future land use map amendments since the traffic impacts cannot be analyzed until a site development proposal is prepared. The Planning and Zoning Commission heard this item on January 17th and voted in favor of both items, and there was also discussion that the board direct staff to revisit the overlay on how best to accommodate a transition from residential to commercial. And with that, staff is recommending approval of the future land use map amendments, items 7A and 7B. and the public hearing needs to be opened and closed with separate voting for each item individually. That concludes my presentation, and I believe the applicant has a presentation as well.
Thank you. Are there any questions for staff at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to state this is a quasi-judicial.
Actually, this is not a quasi-judicial per county attorney's opinion relative to several cases, so
right.
It was noted as
Commissioner, the agenda item does note it as a quasi-judicial, Commissioner Zadowski, so understand your concern about disclosures, but this is, as I understand it, a small-scale comprehensive land use plan amendment, not a rezoning. It's not a site plan approval, and there's a case that, in the Florida Supreme Court that suggests that a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment is legislative, not quasi-judicial. So I don't believe that we have to treat it as a quasi-judicial hearing.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for staff at this time? With that, we will turn to the applicant, realizing that at this time to help look at the situation, realizing that both of these parcels are being considered and need to roll together, we've asked that the applicant as well as staff look at both of these together. We'll be having a separate roll call on each of the items, but we'll be having one public hearing to be able to process those. Mr. Curry, good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Brad Curry with Land Design South representing the applicant. Really three property owners before you tonight to change land use from residential urban to commercial. I have prepared a very brief PowerPoint presentation. Staff did an excellent job. I just want to further touch on a few things that they brought up. With me here tonight is Mr. Sean Herring as well as Mr. Wayne Larson, two of the property owners. Mr. Hayhurst could not make it here tonight. Again, the request is to change future land use of the property from residential urban to commercial. Britton did a great job explaining where the properties are. I just have two aerials here that show it in relationship to US 1. Again, the Hayhurst Larson piece on the north side of Prima Vista and the Herring piece on the south side. A zoom in of the properties. Future land use of the property is RU of all properties as they're identified here in the dark shaded areas. And the zoning designation is RS4, again designated as identified in the shaded areas. Prima Vista or St. Lucie West Boulevard is one of 6 roads that connects US 1 out to either the Turnpike or I-95. Tonight's request is for a land use change only. All 3 of these properties would have to come back before this board to get a zoning approval and then go before staff for site plan approval. No uses are being proposed tonight. As many of you know, Mr. Herring does own a massage clinic or wellness clinic, and he would like to operate on his property. And Mr. Hayhurst has got a hearing aid center out on US 1. Both of these individuals, Mr. Herring has been in the River Park area for 16 years, and Mr. Hayhurst has been in for 21 years. I think it's important, Britton did mention in her presentation, that if this is in any other spot in the county and had a R-use land use designation, we would not be here tonight. The overlay requires us to change the land use from RU to commercial to allow the CO and CN zoning districts. She mentioned the table 1-3 of your comprehensive plan, and this is a land use designation zoning compatibility chart. Every municipality in the state of Florida really has this, something that I use on a daily basis to determine which land uses are compatible with which zoning districts. Zoning districts are on your left-hand side, land uses along the top. Again, our properties have the RU land use designation, and we would be going for a CN or a CO zoning designation. As you can see by the X's that are on your screen, in any other places, if you had the RU land use designation and you wanted to do CN or CO, you would not have to request a land use plan amendment or a future land use plan, which we're doing tonight. So it's a special case. So in the project history, again, local business owners, local property owners, people that live here and work here in the city, in the county. Mr. Herring began this process back in the fall of 2007, and his first meeting was really with staff prior to purchasing the property to see if he could do commercial on here, and staff said yes, commercial is a possibility, and so he did purchase the property. Came in and met with me, and I explained to him really what the processes would be, and we decided at that point that it was probably going to be best to go meet with the homeowner association and try to get some amendments to the overlay. It was probably time. The overlay at that time was about 11 years old, and things had changed, and so Sean went and joined the homeowner association and really found that the homeowner association was in favor of making some changes to the overlay. He became a member, And really, at the direction of staff, of county staff, went through and sent out a petition for everybody who lived along Prima Vista to get their support. They did 2 mass mailings. The first one was for the first row of people that live on Prima Vista. The second were the people that back up to Prima Vista, and they received support from both those groups. I think that the county at that point was kind of caught, county staff was caught in the middle of having the petitions that were saying people were in support of it, while at the same time having individuals coming in and saying they didn't want changes. And so I think the county felt like they were in the middle of something and really bowed out at that point and said, you know what, this is probably something that is not something we want to get in the middle of. And in 2009, there was a letter written to Sebastian Gomez, who was the president at the time of the Homeowner Association, basically saying, you know, staff doesn't, our priorities are in other places at this time, and so it was kind of put on the back burner. And I think it was at that point where, you know, Sean had really spent 2 years of his life at that point trying to make change from within, from, you know, going in and joining the group, and had decided that it was probably better at that point to save his money and try to move forward with someone and hiring someone like myself to do the application for him. It was adopted, and the River Park Overlay was adopted in 1996. This is an aerial from 1996. It shows the bridge just starting to be constructed. It was just a 2-lane road at the time of adoption. You know, I question, you know, I don't think Prima Vista is anywhere near the road that was a road then that it is today, the number of trips, as Britton mentioned in her staff report. So does the overlay really make sense for Prima Vista today? I did some research on the traffic counts. I'll breeze through these real quick. This is from the TPO. This is a title page of the TPO. And what the TPO does is they go around to various roadways and identify the average annual daily trips. This is right from their website. And I wanted to do the Dave Letterman top 10 of the busiest roads in St. Lucie County, but I narrowed it down to the top 3. The first one is Prima Vista, 400 feet west of US 1, 25,000 ADTs, and on both the north and the south side you can see that there are commercial uses there. Second roadway, second most trips in that list, St. Lucie West Boulevard, 900 feet east of Peacock, 29,000 AADT. Again, here's an aerial of that intersection. On the north and south sides you have commercial properties there as well. And the number 1 roadway in that TPO list was Prima Vista, 260 feet west of Rio Mar, directly in front of Mr. Herring's property, 30,000 average annual daily trips in that section. Here is an aerial of that area. And then on the north and south side, you can see on the south side Mr. Herring's property, it's a residential house, and on the north side it's a vacant lot and a residential house. So out of those 3 examples, this one has the most trips, and it's the only one that has the residential property on both the north and south side. I wanted to show you some other ones. This is Port St. Lucie Boulevard. Again, more than what was on Prima Vista. It's 36,000 commercial on both sides of the street. And then I looked at US 1 just south of Virginia Avenue, which is 28,500 trips, less than what's on what's on Prima Vista. And again, as we know, on US 1 there's commercial on both sides. This is a summary of the 5 pictures that I just showed you, with Prima Vista and Rio Mar being where the subject property is at 30,000 average annual daily trips. We did have a neighborhood meeting back in September. We sent out about 100 notices, and 22 people showed up at the meeting. We had it at the River Park, at the park there on the river. I think most were concerned about the proposed uses. I think there was a lot of talk about gas stations and drive-through restaurants and those sorts of uses, and we assured them that there was no way that we could get that because of the CN and CO limitation of the zoning, really, and expressed to them that we were just asking for the land use at this point, and that after we get the land use, if we were successful, we would just have to go through zoning process. Again, you heard staff say that they would only support CN and CO uses on the property. I feel like the code backs them up with that, and we agree, the applicants all agree that CO or CN. Just right from your zoning code, the CN uses, commercial uses, you guys are fairly familiar with that. And then the commercial office. In summary, again, no uses proposed tonight, simply a question of whether commercial uses should be allowed on Prima Vista. The commercial uses, CO and CN, are compatible with the RU land use designation. Your comp plan very clearly says that. You may hear tonight that we're going to propose a gas station or some other more intense use on the property, and hopefully my presentations explain that that's not possible. Again, this is just the first step. We still have to come back for zoning, and this isn't the spur of the moment. Sean didn't wake up, 2 months ago and decide he wanted to change his property. This is something he's been working on since 2007. These are local owners, local business owners. These are not people from out of town coming in to change the land use. Numerous letters and emails in support of the project, and staff's recommended approval, as well as we got approval from the Planning and Zoning Board back last month. That concludes my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Mr. Curry. Questions for the applicant? Thank you. This time, this is a public hearing, and as mentioned, what we're going to do is we'll have both public hearings together. The presentations that were provided to the Planning and Zoning Board, I know the members of the Commission as well have had the opportunity to be able to view the meeting, as well as to be able to review minutes that were provided from that. It was a fairly lengthy meeting, about 4 hours in length, so I appreciate the time that many of you took to actually attend and to be a part of that process. Due to that fact, though, realizing that the Commission has had the opportunity to review all that, we want to make sure that you're mindful of that. Comments that are provided tonight, if you don't mind, if someone's provided that comment, that works out great. That way you're not actually needing to provide for that. We'll do something a little different, though, before we actually open up the public comment portion, and that's to find out how many of you in the audience are actually here in favor of the actual change that's being proposed. So for those of you, if you wouldn't mind raising your hand so the Commission is able to see. Okay. Thank you. Those that are opposed to that? Okay, about 4. And about maybe 50 that are in favor? Okay, good. Again, for those of you that are either in favor or against, where you don't need to necessarily hear every comment, but it's one that if there's something pertinent to that, feel free to come provide that comment. If something's been provided, please let's hold off on repeating that again. Okay? If you'd like also as well, if you want to go along the side of the wall, that'll help as well. Mr. Hearing, did you have a comment? Okay, with that, we'll open up the public hearing portion.
Good evening, Commissioners, Chairman, Commissioner. So at the P&Z meeting...
Just your name and address for the record, Mr. Hearing.
Much better. Is that okay?
Yeah, don't break.
It's that guy, I'm sure,
My name is Sean Herring, and I live at 738 Prima Vista Boulevard, Port St. Lucie, Florida. And at the P&Z meeting, I spoke last, and all my supporters for this project kind of stole my thunder. There was nothing left for me to say. So I thanked them all. And to be real honest with all of you tonight, I don't think there's a lot that needs to be said. The show in numbers, it says it all. And it really is, I think, heartwarming to know that as a community we can gather together and come out and support a project that we believe in. And that alone spoke monumentally to the people here on the board, I'm sure, as it did the last meeting. So I agree with Commissioner Mowry. It would be a long night if we do what we did last time. So maybe if you have something special to say, I would appreciate it. And if not, you've done your job. You're here. And to the commissioners, it was 5 years and 4 months. And more money than I ever thought that I could ever spend. But because I've been given a gift to accomplish this goal, it's been provided for, and I'm ever so thankful for that. But I'd like you to know that I needed this moment to stand in front of you after this amount of time of effort. I deserve that a time here to stand and speak. I've went over and above what's needed to accomplish what I'm trying to do. I've done more, in my opinion, to accomplish this small scale than anybody has ever done in this county. And I'm not angry about it. I appreciate the opportunity because my healing center is going to become a reality. and it's going to be a positive thing that the commissioners will be proud of. And that's really all I have to say tonight. Thank you.
Glenn Collins.
Good evening.
Hi, how you doing? River Park. I have an opposing view. You know, I don't have to mention the traffic problems and stuff. I mean, they say Crosstown Parkway Bridge is 5 years away minimum. You know, putting all this commercial on there with 20 potential driveways just in this area with 20 potential businesses is going to make the only road that I can get home on even worse. I mean, right now, traffic flow's okay. We'll talk about once everything's paved over, where's the water going to go? It's not going to seep into the grass, so it's going to go into the river, it's going to flow into the road, and into the other people's houses that live around there. You know, the arguments being made that I heard at the Planning and Zone meeting that I didn't get to attend, people were saying, you know, they're trapped in their houses on Prima Vista. A lot of people are trapped in their houses all over this county. They paid too much. You know, the economy went south. I personally live right on Floresta. I can see the intersection of Prima Vista right from my house. I deal with everything, the semi-trucks, the motorcycles, the stereos rattling my house. So do the people on Oroso. And using the arguments here today that there's 30,000 cars, that there's, you know, noise, everything else, then after this is approved, why don't we go to Oroso and turn that a commercial? At least the west side of Oroso, because there's a buffer between those houses and the properties behind it. There's a whole drainage ditch. So if you ask me, Oroso is more qualified to go commercial. Right now, this is spot zoning. It's somebody used the word daisy chaining at the Planning and Zoning, and that's what this is. It's taking two properties out of everywhere and changing it to commercial. AutoZone was zone CO. You guys changed the whole county comprehensive plan to allow that. You even gave them a variance for their driveway. So it's not really too far-fetched to say that you know, something like an AutoZone can't be put around there. Same with the gas station. The gas station on Prima Vista and Oroso was once zone CO2, and we got a gas station there. You know, I don't want to compare us down to the counties to the south, but there's a lot of 4-lane roads that are completely residential, and I brought a slideshow, but I'm not going to get into that. You know, I'll just mention some: West Camino in Boca, Hypaluxo, Summit, 103rd Street in Miami, Palmetto Park. I mean, these are all 4-lane divided roads with just residential. Let me think. Oh yeah, Port St. Lucie Boulevard. It's been going commercial for over 20 years, and there's still rundown houses there. So people that think that the eyesore of Prima Vista is going to change overnight, it won't. And I just want 30 more seconds, please. The transition time that's going to take, it's going to take a long, long time for this to ever clean up. And I think the reason why it looks so bad now is because people are holding out and not wanting to fix up their houses. If you keep it residential, people will fix up the houses and it'll look better. I'm all for small business and property rights, but this is residential, and I believe it should say that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. Anyone else wishing to address the board on this public hearing? Again, if you are wanting to make comments, if you don't mind, you can come over and you can line up along the side wall if you'd like to do that. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Ivins. I live on Prima Vista Boulevard for the last 28 years. And I've heard comments at the other meeting and here that I'd like to address. And one of them is that I've heard over and over in the paper and the news, the letters sent to the editor, that there's some people that are opportunists that bought on Prima Vista so that they could quickly sell commercial and go away wealthy. Well, may I address the people in Prima Vista that have been there all these years and can't go away wealthy. We can't go away at all. Nobody's going to be able, nobody buys our homes. And as for fixing them up, some of the houses are rented out. Some of the houses, the people that lived there all these years that couldn't sell have passed away. We have talked to them. We have done a survey of them. We have given them papers to read and look at, and this overlay that we didn't know where it came from, it kept everybody stuck, and they couldn't get out. And so to say that we're spot zoning the change and things like that, I don't see anything about spot zoning. We just couldn't get anywhere with the overlay that's been hanging over our heads for all this year that we don't know where it came from. We weren't notified of it. I was told we were, but we weren't. And so I think the overlay itself should be lifted, should be thrown out. I think you have plans that it won't be done haphazardly, that because the county has regulations and you impose them when somebody wants to go commercial. I went commercial or PNRD zoning for my doll shop on Prima Vista and Floresta. Some people remember that. And it was not a hazard to anybody to do that. It was a well-done commercial place, and the commission told me how to do it and what to do and what regulations there were. So I don't think anything of the changes, I think you can help the changes go in a good way rather than let it go haphazardly, and all the people that are still stuck there can't move. And the people that say, yes, you can, no, we can't sell. Nobody's been able to sell. So they rent their houses out, move in with their children elsewhere, because all these people, a lot of them have gotten a lot older and can't live alone anymore. I'm getting pretty close to that myself, I'm sorry to say, but I appreciate anything you can do to get a change there. We all need to change, and we're begging. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Ivins. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Shane Hennessy. I live in Port St. Lucie on Tranquilla. I did not have an opportunity to speak at the last meeting, and so I really felt like I wanted to this time. I won't take too much time. I live 5 minutes away from Sean, and I've known him for quite some time now. He's healed me many times. He's healed my wife. He's healed my son, who's 9, and my daughter, who's 4. My daughter has a very special relationship. She likes to go over there and throw rocks in the water in his backyard, and we literally walk down Prima Vista, over that bridge, past River Park, to Sean's house. Yeah, it's a busy street, and no doubt about it, and I wouldn't let my daughter walk down there by herself, but it's not going to get any busier. I mean, if you think about the argument that putting a business there is going to increase the traffic, it seems to me kind of insane. I mean, the numbers that we're talking about of the traffic that drives down that street and the amount of people that would be going to this business don't even compete. So that seems to me not to be of any relevance. What seems to be of relevance is that it is a busy street and that it is a growing community, a community which can use small businesses that are helpful to the community. And I believe in my heart and soul that that is exactly what Sean wants to do. I don't know this and that about gas stations and all this talk, but I do know Sean really well, and he's a healer. And that's what he's trying to bring to this place. And so I just wanted an opportunity to say that. Thank you very much.
Hello once again. My name is David Kaplan, 410 Southeast Naranja. I'm not either for or against this particular proposal. However, I have to address the situation as I spoke about earlier about traffic. The gentleman that spoke before said, why is it affected? Well, you know the numbers are there. And my concern is the parking as I showed you pictures before, I think that your way of calculating parking for businesses isn't quite adequate. I showed you an example where a nice-looking facility was built specifically for commercial businesses, and yet there isn't adequate parking, and yet it passed all the zoning in the city and the county. So that was my concern. You talk about the number of cars coming in and out, and how few people do pull in and out, as the gentleman was saying. But there's no acceleration, de-acceleration lanes. They're pulling out of a single-family, or what was designed originally as a single-family driveway, and there's not enough room or right-of-way to have an acceleration or de-acceleration. So you're having somebody coming out perpendicularly into this 4-lane divided highway, and if they want to go the opposite direction, they have to cross 2 lanes of traffic, and you know the difficulty of that and why there can be head-on collisions and side collisions. So it's not a matter of the number of people that go to that particular business. It's a matter of the number of cars that are passing the business when someone's trying to exit, when that 1 person an hour, 1 person every 2 hours or whatever. I have nothing wrong with Mr. Sean's business, not at all. Something needs to be done there because of the traffic numbers. It is difficult for the people living there. I'm 2 blocks away and I hear the noise. I'm on Southeast Naranja, and the noise is incredible. I think, as people said, their homes are devalued. They can't sell them. It might be an opportune time to buy them, buy that right away, and expend something similar to the Crosstown Parkway, where you have those easements. You heard earlier the Planning and Zoning, they recommended that you look again at the overlay, how the overlay came, when it came, who made it. I think it was all based upon the River Park Homeowners Association, whose mantra originally on their handout of their booklet and all they gave to new neighbors was to stop the commercialization of Prima Vista. I can't necessarily agree with that at this time, but I say due to the traffic numbers, due to the noise, due to the difficulty of people pulling out, I just want you to look at that again. I think we need to address the overlay. We need to think about how to protect the people who do stay once a business comes in and goes commercial, about the walls, the dividers, privacy, this type of thing. And you have your work cut out for you. And thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Kaplan.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Kaplan, if you wouldn't mind, you raised the issue on the being able to get out of the driveways if he were to put a business there. I'm hearing from others too that, and I also saw on the Planning and Zoning meeting, that individuals are renting these properties and or living in these properties. They also have to enter and exit the properties. Does that not also have the same effect? And as
renters, well, unfortunately, as you read in the paper, of course, group homes right there in North Naranja in Prima Vista, as I understand, if you have a home and you want to rent it out by rooms and, you know, you can't find a renter or a family to move in, they're telling their tenants to say that it's a halfway house in order to try to avoid.
Actually,
so that increases traffic, yes.
I was trying to get you to the thought process of the pulling out from the driveways.
Yes, everyone has difficulty pulling out. Some people put circular driveways in. You can't back out, obviously. You have to try to turn your vehicle around within your property so you're heading out, you know, forward, not in reverse.
Okay.
Oh, they all have that difficulty. They're absolutely.
Okay.
However, if you're a family and you have 2 people, and like I said, you know, they all have 1.5 cars, you know, how many times are they going to leave their house in a day? If you had a business there, you have to have a bookkeeper. Maybe you have, you know, someone else attendant. I showed you those pictures there, that small business that was originally built for 3 businesses. Now they just have 2, and yet they have to park out in the swale because of their assistants, because of the bookkeeper, because of the payroll person. And I'm not saying that this particular business is going to fall into that category, but it does.
Yeah, I was just trying to get to the point where each individual home, as it sits today, they still have to all enter and exit their driveways to get on Prima Vista.
With great difficulty, absolutely. They all come and go, but how many times, how many trips would some family do? If you had mother and father and 2 kids, they go to school, they get picked up, they come back, and then how many on an hourly basis would be leaving if you had a business where you try to make money? You know, you need to provide for your business.
Okay.
Obviously, you would hope that more people would come than a single family.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Michael Seal. I live in the area of where Mr. Herring's business is. Actually, I live off of Oroso. It would be dishonest if I didn't say that I have a personal bias here, because Mr. Herring has done miracles for me. I was a pilot in Vietnam, and I was shot down. And I did not have the opportunity to eject, and I had to ride my plane in. I suffered many, many years of pain, and Mr. Herring has been the first person of all the treatment I've had, from all the medical facilities to the VA, that has been able to render that I am able to walk again without pain, to be able to provide, to be able to function on a daily basis, and he's my lifeline. I had 4 ribs broken, the adhesions that were in there. No one was able, without surgery, which I didn't want, because I guess I was afraid. And so I suffered until I met Mr. Herring about 7 years ago. I'm 72 years old now and in better shape than I was the day I met him. As far as his business and the impact on the community, if you would have seen the dwelling before, the before, and now look at the after, I think that would satisfy anyone's concerns right now. He has done miracles, just like he did with my body, he did with that building. When I see the work that he does on the weekends, when I'm shamelessly sometimes laying around, vegging on the couch and watching TV, and I hate him because he makes me look bad. He's out there working all the time, all the time, all the time. And the improvements that he's made to that property, it's just phenomenal. He is an absolute perfectionist when it comes to how the structure is going to look. It's going to be pleasing to the community. It is going to do nothing but bring up that entire area. It will be the centerpiece for improvement for that entire area. And it's something to be proud of, and it would be to not do it would be a travesty at this point in time. Because, and again, about the amount of traffic, he's only able to work on 1 person an hour. And, you know, if you're that lucky to have your business turnover that fast, God bless you, you know. But there's only a few people going in and out. And as far as staff, his family is the staff. They're there. So I think that fear has been addressed, that there really isn't anything to be concerned of at this time. It is known to be nothing but an improvement to the entire community. It is going to bring up the value of those other properties around, because it is something worthwhile to look at. I urge you to consider this passage. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Seal.
Hi, my name is Sally Brunner. I live on Prima Vista Boulevard. When you go west from Mr. Herring's house, I'm the first house you come to. We came up in 1994 with a petition from everyone on Prima Vista Boulevard, allowing them to go commercial if they chose to. This is before they built the bridge. This is before they widened in front of our house. At that time, we had 15 people speak in approval of going commercial. We had 3, which 2 of those people, 1 of them is dead, and 2 of the other people are still against the commercialization of Prima Vista Boulevard. I'm for what they want to do. I worked for a developer for 22 years. I think you should have the right to do something with your property if it's logical, if it's something that the county will allow. As Mrs. Ivins said, we were not aware of the overlay. We've been told that we were notified. We were told that they came to our house and knocked on our door and showed us what they were going to do before they put it in 1996. They did not. We did not know it was happening. At that time, Cliff Barnes was the chairman of the Board of County Commissioners, and he made a suggestion that they buy all the houses in River Park because they weren't worth much, and they were little tiny houses, and you could buy them all for $20,000 a piece and just tear them down. Well, all the houses on Prima Vista are not the same. I live on an intersection. I live on a corner. At that time, we were told that the intersections would be allowed to go commercial. I cannot, because I'm too close to the middle of the intersection. I would have to have too many properties. My house is not a small house. My lot is 140 by 125. I had someone who wanted to buy my property and put a business in. They came to the county. They were told that the property would be too small to have an office. This was an office that was going to have 2 people in it. 2 people. No one was coming to visit them. No one was going to come there. It wasn't going to bring any traffic. Well, we weren't allowed to, so we weren't interested at that time in selling anyway, but I didn't bring 30,000 cars in front of my house. I don't have my neighbors who come, they don't come and help me clean up my yard. I'm now 75 years old and I have recently had a stroke. And it's hard for us to maintain our property. We had a rental property next to us that was a boarding house where we had someone die. We had a lot of things happen. And there's 3 or 4 halfway houses that I can go out and stand in my front yard and point them out to you. And the traffic. They bring in more traffic than a business does because they're in and out all day long. So that's just my comment. I think it should go with the county telling everyone what they can. What you're allowing them to do is the right type of thing, and I don't think St. Lucie County is going to sit there and let people put things in that is going to be detrimental to the area. I think what they are proposing is going to be an asset to the area. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bremer. Okay. Is there any other movement? Seeing no further movement, we will close the general public comment portion of this public hearing. With that, we will return to the board for comments from the commissioners.
Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I just need to ask staff to clarify so it's on the record. The issues that some of the people have brought out in regards to the traffic, at this stage of the request, those concerns of traffic will actually be addressed if this moves forward at a later time when it comes to the site plan and so forth, correct?
About access management?
Yes.
Okay. Versus the extra traffic.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Commissioner Hutchinson, that is correct. At the time of site plan, they may be required to do a traffic study.
Okay, and the storm runoff with the pollution that some are complaining about, or not complaining, or at least bringing up the concern of it, those again would fall under the same type of scenario, that there would be requirements, but again, they would not be until if this moves forward at the site plan.
Yes, ma'am, as well as parking and ingress and egress and.
Okay. All right. Mr. Chairman, I am actually finding myself kind of like this is almost 2 different issues, and I can't go back in time, nor will I go back in time and criticize prior boards for what was or was not ever done. I don't think that would help anybody. But I do think the issue that's been brought up by several people, whether it was here tonight at the Planning and Zoning Board meetings or in conversations I've had with some of the people that I've talked to, that unknown question of the overlay and whether or not it needs to be updated or made more current with the present way that the neighborhood, along with the streets, along with the needs of the future, are now out there. That, to me, is a separate issue, but I think it plays into the conversation for tonight, that I would really hope that this board would make a policy decision as to giving direction to staff on that particular item. And then, of course, the request is being the second thing. If I knew there was a commitment from this board to work with the members of that neighborhood, to go back and have staff work with them to address that overlay, I would have a better comfort level in moving forward. That's my dilemma. This is an opportunity that I think this board can actually for lack of a better term, kill two birds with one stone. That's, in my opinion, sorely needed.
Mr. Chairman, to sort of respond to that comment in reference to, I believe it was mentioned in the staff report that has been done within the last, 2-3 years? Staff could help me with how many years it's been. But I believe there was a letter from was it Mr. Satterley, the letter actually came from, which stated that we got ourselves in the midst of a neighborhood dilemma and didn't have the staff to allocate at that point in time. I don't know what has changed with our staffing situation since then. And while I completely agree with you that, to get the neighborhood together and come to a conclusion is the way to go, I'm not sure that we're too much past where we were a couple of years ago when we tried that. I know I brought it forward at that point in time. Half of River Park or thereabouts, I guess maybe a little more than half, is in my district. So I've been involved in these issues from, I was going to say from time to time, but ongoing, I guess I should say. And I really don't know that we can go any further, and I'm not getting any response from staff when I'm asking what did that letter actually say, but I seem to recall that it was actually shown on the screen just a few minutes ago stating that we attempted that and kind of came to grief. Now, if we can attempt it again, I would not be adverse to doing that. I just want us to kind of be aware where we're going, and I would need to ask whether we did have the time and the resources to allocate to it now.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. As I recall, back in '09, I think we also had other projects that we were working on as well, which was taking up staff time, and I think that combined with just some of the the conflict within the neighborhood, I think we at the time just said, look, maybe now is not the best time to be doing this, but if the board desires to do that, I think maybe now may be a time that we could take a look at it if you all are so inclined.
If we have the resources, I think that might be reasonable, because I know the issues that have been raised this evening, quite a few of them have been raised from time to time. One of the things that was mentioned, and again what Commissioner Hutchinson touched on, a lot of the issues that are of concern will come forward upon rezoning and site plan submission. Things like roadway adjustments to accommodate traffic, to prevent hazardous left turns, that sort of thing. Barriers between residential and non-residential, that is part of our code, so that would be addressed. There are a lot of the things that were brought forward. And one thing that was mentioned, it's not actually a part of our decision, I don't think, but since it was mentioned, and I know it has been a source of friction for quite some time, once again, I'm going to have to ask staff. I know it's been mentioned, the eyesore that is Prima Vista. Well, I don't live in River Park, but I drive through there every day. And if you folks live there, you've got to admit the roadway, the improvement, just the state of that roadway has improved immeasurably. Mr. Satterley, can you give us a brief rundown on what we have done as far as code enforcement?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Commissioner Lewis. Actually, as part of the analysis, we went and looked at the amount of code enforcement that we have done in the River Park area, and since 2008, we have had almost 200 separate code enforcement cases on properties just fronting on the road, and there are about 130 properties, so that averages out to about 40 a year, and fully 25% of the properties that front on Prima Vista are in some place in the code enforcement process, at any time during the year. So we've spent a tremendous amount of staff time, trying to do code enforcement to deal with the property maintenance issues on Prima Vista, and it does. I think it is beginning to look better, but it's just emblematic of the issue that we confront, in dealing with the uses that front the road. Does that answer your question?
I just wanted to mention that. Yes, thank you. I just wanted to mention, I know there were some fairly substantial numbers at any given time, as has been said. We are active on the roadway, and I just didn't want to let that pass. The comments were not specific, and I didn't take it that way, but I just wanted to make it known that there is activity going on. And I personally, as I said, as someone that drives through, think there has been a really noticeable improvement in the look, just the appearance of Prima Vista. As far as the actual issue before us this evening, I I will be honest, when it was first brought up, I wasn't at all sure what we were doing. The spot zoning phrase that was thrown out did cross my mind. That's not what this is at all. I think it is probably, as someone who came on, I think right before I got on the board, there was a discussion going on as to whether all of Prima Vista should be commercialized. So I heard the discussions at that point in time, so it's kind of been part of my frame of reference for a lot of years now. And I think this is a reasonable approach to the problem. I think the people that are stuck on Prima Vista are stuck in a different sense than the people that are upside down in their houses elsewhere in the county. There is nobody that is going to want to buy on Prima Vista to live there. I'm fairly sure of that. I don't think, maybe you might find, if you were to find someone, I would think that would be a very unusual circumstance indeed. The houses that are still residential are by and large rentals, or they are folks that have been there for a very long time and for whatever reason can't realize enough from their homes to move because nobody wants to live there anymore. I was here from '87 on, so I saw the roadway when it was just a 2-lane roadway and flooded every time it rained. And that was a very different neighborhood that the overlay was brought forward in. And once again, the overlay predates me, so I don't know where it came from. And I agree that that's not really
Not the issue.
not going to help us to go through that now. That's ancient history for all intents and purposes. But I really think this is a reasonable approach to the problem. There is someone who wants to do something specific. Granted, we don't have a site plan before us, but I believe that the use that has been proposed is rational, is reasonable, and is compatible with the community as it exists. I think the original concept was to preserve the kind of the small town characteristic of River Park. Well, I submit to you, with the racetrack running through the middle of it, I don't think that racetrack area is small town anymore. So I just, once again, basically, what I'm saying in a very, I'm sorry to orate, but what I'm saying is that I do support this application. I think it's a good way to approach the problem, and I would like to see if we can't perhaps move forward and make some sort of a reasonable conclusion of more of the issue on down the road.
And I think that's something we can deal with as a separate discussion, as mentioned. But I do see Commissioner Hutchinson's comments as it relates to pulling them together, but then keeping them separate for tonight. So with that, other comments from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I would agree with Commissioner Hutchinson and with Commissioner Lewis and your position that keeping these two situations separate. I would agree with Mr. Collins that safety is an issue. Mr. Kaplan raised serious concerns, but I don't think those concerns are going to be met on a piecemeal basis. I think you're right, Commissioner Hutchinson. This board moves forward with a comprehensive planning review as to how this area will develop, taking into account the turn lanes, gaining the proper easements that will be necessary to move utilities, to provide decel and XL lanes, as Mr. Kaplan had stated, making sure that the traffic bumps so that people can't make left-hand turns out of the properties on the south side of Prima Vista going west. Those all are a lot of things that have to be vetted through and talked through with our staff and, of course, with the community at hand. I think that we are now at the time in St. Lucie County that we can invest in this area with our planning staff. The Board of County Commissioners, I think we're moving in a direction to find solutions, and I'm hearing from the community that they too are interested in finding solutions for this area. So I'm supportive. I'm supportive of this application this evening if we are able to, again, move forward with a proper approach with our planning staff, and I'm supportive of that, Commissioner.
Thank you.
With that said, let me say that I grew up in St. Lucie County, and I remember Port St. Lucie was a place of nothing but houses. And they had probably 1 or 2 schools and a couple of parks. Why am I making the statement that I'm making? The reason why I'm making that statement is because of a statement that Commissioner Lewis said. I don't want anyone as a resident to feel like they're hostage in their own home based upon a situation that they did not create. Also, when I look at Port St. Lucie Boulevard and Prima Vista, there's a lot in common. And there were a lot of houses on Port St. Lucie Boulevard before it turned into commercial businesses and other things that I have currently on there now. So with that said, I'm basically saying you all experiencing the afterdraft of the process that Port St. Lucie Boulevard experienced. And as a result of that, I don't want to hold you hostage in a home that may not increase in property value or cause you to rent a property out that you don't want to live in. So with that said, I am in total support of this process. I think that you all collectively have come together, united, and there's something to be said when camaraderie is in a community. And I can appreciate that.
Okay, I'm hearing a general consensus. A couple of comments just for those obviously in the audience as well. When we deal with land use decisions, whether it's land use decisions or whether it's a rezoning case, we're not actually supposed to take into the consideration the emotions. We're not supposed to look at Mr. Hearing or any other applicant and actually look at them, because in reality, Mr. Hearing has the opportunity, as anybody does, to sell their property, and once they sell that property, any other use could be presented on that. And somebody that comes along and says, hey, he's the greatest guy in the world, next week it could be somebody else that may not be the greatest person in the world. And so as a result, we always have to look at any decision to make sure it's in the best interest of the community and that it follows the standards of review that we have to follow, as well as what the Planning and Zoning Commission followed. As a result, we cut out emotion, we cut out owners as it relates to that, and we try and look at what is in the best interest of that. I think the Commission, as the general rule, we do diligently try and do our homework to make sure that we're able to be prepared as well to follow that. But then our standards of review are those that we would follow. Is it consistent? Is it compatible? Is it something that will be positive in that particular sense and do well? Looking at that, a couple of comments. In addition to that, I wanted to make note that I share Commissioner Hutchison's sentiment, and after this particular situation is dealt with, I would like to have staff as well give us some thoughts. I feel I struggle with the fact that the City of Port St. Lucie on Port St. Lucie Boulevard was concerned that they weren't going to have any commercial. And back when GDC started creating all the lots, they came along and actually put in what they called an LMD, Limited Mixed Development Zoning District. It was an overlay that they put over the top of Port St. Lucie Boulevard. And now we do see strip commercial that has run rampant on that entire stretch, which is not really the best approach when it comes to trying to plan for an area. That doesn't mean that's going to happen in this particular area, but although they thought that was a good idea, I think a lot of people have looked at that now to say, you know, that really wasn't the best approach. Trying to deal with this is a land use issue, then second you would have a rezoning, and you may not actually have a site plan review process in the sense that somebody may be using their existing home, they don't plan on making any changes, and if that particular use has sufficient parking, it may be a permitted use, and as a permitted use, meaning it's allowed. You have some uses in a zoning district that are allowed, they're permitted, some that are special exception uses. That means they could be allowed if they meet special conditions for that particular area. And so I think it's one that I think we should work with staff to look at some of those considerations, realizing many of the lots on Prima Vista back right up to residential lots behind, and looking at whether it's buffering requirements, looking at what aspects should come into play, and that's why I think the idea of going with some overlay consideration is important. That way, if we need to make special considerations to protect the residents behind, we do that. We take those appropriate actions and lay some of those things into that zoning, or action into that overlay that would be in place. And maybe it will be something completely different, as Commissioner Zadowski mentioned, limiting the access points, perhaps doing things on the boulevard itself to stop some of the left turn movements that may happen. Those are just things that actually happen as you try and create a safe and appropriate area for that. Let's see, did I miss anything on my notes?
Need a motion?
I'm just making sure that before I call for a motion. No. Okay. I think that I do thank you all for coming. We're always glad to be able to see concerned citizens and residents come. So thank you very much for taking your time and effort to join us tonight on that. With that being said, is there a motion that staff would like to put forward, realizing that your motion does need to have reasoning behind that?
Mr. Chair, are you taking the two separate
We will take
Okay.
these as two separate votes.
Move staff approval of ordinance 13-004.
Question for County Attorney before we even have a second. Do you want additional?
Commissioner, I assume the motion included, it said staff recommendation, and that includes the backup and the reasoning that staff went through the standards of review. That was all included in the motion.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. That need another motion for the second item. This is for ordinance number 13-003, future land use amendment for Mr. Herring.
Mr. Chairman, make a motion, for approval of staff recommendation of ordinance number 13-003.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for staff recommendation. Is there any other discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carried.
Mr. Chairman, before we move on, and I appreciate just one more moment, and that is, did I hear that there was at least enough board support to give staff direction to kind of go ahead and start looking into what's going to be involved, what we can do? Can we do something in-house to work with the neighborhood on the future of their community?
I think we have that, and I would like to turn to our county administrator as well as Mr. Satterley and have us at least move forward with that so that we can look at that stretch and revisit the overlay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Satterley. Thank you all for attending that. We appreciate it. We're not quite finished with our meeting, so you can feel free to leave.
You want to give them 2 minutes to...
If you want, we'll take a 2-minute recess here. 2 minutes.
For my contact. Okay, bye-bye.
Sorry.
Okay, we're going to come back to order here, and just a quick comment here before we jump onto that, and I asked Mr. Satterley about this. I'm feeling bad that in this particular sense we would also have a landowner that's going to turn around and have to pay for consultant costs and go through the entire rezoning process on something that I think in many respects is already a given for that. I'd rather see as a part of our process sort of a county-initiated process that would look at whether it's even the rezoning, and it's probably through this study, I would assume we may look at some special zoning district that may allow and provide for those small lot configurations and deal with it in a way that provides for the buffering and those aspects, rather than trying to make each of these applicants try and go through a particular COCN zoning on that. I think we're going to want to see something different, but I'd hate to see now the applicant having to come back and pay, the extensive fees that he's already paid to date for his applicant to redevelop this entire process, submit the application process to go through something that, in many respects, has really become a given. That's my thought.
Mr. Chairman, though, I think that the process and the time that staff is going to take to really look at all of the issues with the possibility of easements, moving utilities, creating buffers, having buy-in from the community, creating the overall planning plan, that the process, that may take longer than these two applicants wish to.
It will, which is why I'm saying for this situation, I don't want to see them, on this sense, it's a given for those two, have to now turn around and pay for the extensive fees of submitting the rezoning, when I think we can do a county-initiated rezoning on those two, realizing that we're going to be going through this extensive process for that.
I definitely agree with that. Definitely agree with that.
Well, I'd like to have a conversation with our staff, maybe, tomorrow or the end of the week sometime, and understand better this process and work through tonight's meeting. I don't think we're going to just solve that tonight.
No, I'm not saying solve that. I'm giving you my thoughts and comments so that way you have that, because I know what will happen next. He's going to go and relax, and he'll finally eat for the first time in 2 days.
Or 7 years.
Yeah, but then he'll now be right back at it, because they now have to submit his rezoning application material, and it becomes fairly extensive. I mean, you look at the cost, he'll have another $7,000-8,000 wrapped up in a consultant fee, and then he'll go through the process of submitting to the county, and it goes on, and then he'll have the site plan review process, and just keeps going.
Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry.
in order to give your thoughts your comments some thought, may I suggest that we maybe ask staff to follow up and bring that information at the informal next Tuesday? And then if there's a policy decision or a vote that needs to be done, we can do it the following Tuesday, which I think will give him enough time to breathe, and catch his breath and get his thoughts together. It'll also give this board the ability to get a little bit more information. I think it's worth something to look into.
Great. Okay, let's move on to the regular agenda. With that, item number 8, County Attorney's Celebration Point Subdivision Improvement Bonds. That's the assignment and related issues.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a somewhat unusual item, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time explaining it just from a record standpoint, and then certainly I'm available to answer questions. I believe the attorney for the property owner is also in the audience and could answer any specific questions about the property owner's position on this. Mr. Chairman, just in an overview, in this county, as in most counties, when you plat a subdivision, which is basically it's a map that you can use to sell lots, you have 2 options with regard to the improvements, which are usually roads, drainage, water, and sewer. You can either build the improvements and then plat it, or you can bond them and then plat it immediately, and the bond is the security. And then there's a parallel agreement that requires that the improvements be done within a certain amount of time. Most everybody, as this applicant did, chooses the bonding route because it's just a quicker way to go. And that was what started all this. It started the way almost all of these subdivisions start. Unfortunately, the economy is what it was, and this started really back in, I guess, late 2000s, 2008, 2009, 2007. Things started unraveling. There was a partnership between Lowland, which is the property owner, and Mercedes, which at the time was the developer. Ultimately, Mercedes declared bankruptcy and has no longer any interest in the property, so Lowland's the property owner, and they're the party that we're dealing with now on the one side. They did get a bond or a series of bonds with bond safeguard. There was a commitment there that if there was a default, the bonds could be used to complete the improvements. Those bonds were approximately $12 million. As I've indicated, things didn't go well. The improvements didn't get done. The county did make a demand on bond safeguard. We did not receive a favorable response. The board ultimately authorized the county to sue bond safeguard, and that suit is pending in St. Lucie County Circuit Court. We did adopt a resolution which is attached, which outlines the reasons for that. The attorneys for Lowland have submitted a settlement proposal to the county. It's in the form of an assignment. It's again, an unusual situation. As proposed by Lowland, the county would assign its rights in the bonds to Lowland, and Lowland would assume the prosecution of the litigation from the county. In return, Lowland would reimburse the counties for its costs and fees, and to date in prosecuting the litigation. Most importantly, they would agree not to sell any individual lot until the subdivision improvements were complete. They would agree to complete the subdivision improvements within 5 years, or if that were not done, they would agree that the county could vacate the plat if Lowland did not complete the subdivision improvements. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, from county staff's perspective, the problem that this presents is that there's a plat out there and the improvements are not done. And that's an unacceptable position or condition for the county to be in. We either need the improvements to get completed or the plat needs to get revoked. By doing this, we will have some certainty that this will get done within a certain period of time. In the interim, there will be no lots sold. The taxpayers will get reimbursed for any of the costs and fees that they've incurred through the past 5, 6, 7 years. And there would be an agreement that if the improvements were not completed, that there would be a consent to vacating the plat, which currently is not something that is authorized by the county's code at this point. In terms of reviewing this from the county's perspective, again, understanding the unusual nature of it, county staff, well, actually, let me just say, the county attorney recommends that the board approve the agreement and authorize the chairman to sign the agreement, subject to county attorney approval.
Thank you, Mr. McIntyre. Would the applicant's attorney like to say anything at this time? Okay. Comments, questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make a comment, maybe a couple. Number one, this development pressures are going to come back to the county. And this situation, the county protected itself by requiring a bond. It would seem that the bonding company or the insurance company has chosen to circumvent the rules, so to speak, or try and sidestep their responsibility, which I think is unacceptable, and that's why we've filed a suit. I'm wondering if we can develop a policy to be brought back that we can strengthen our process in the future, because when development does come, when we tell the community that we are getting a bond to ensure that X is going to be done, I would say that we want to be able to prove and make sure that it gets done. Mr. McIntyre?
Yes, sir. I think what we need to do at a minimum, certainly the board can consider this from a policy perspective when we bring this back, but I think we need to add specific language that where the applicant authorizes us to revoke the plat in the event the improvements are not completed. I think that would have prevented this from happening. Again, this is an unusual circumstance. There is one other case in Florida, in the city of Brooksville, where I'm aware this has happened, but we need to, I guess, adjust and learn from circumstances. And of course, we don't know everything, and you have to learn sometimes the hard way. I think that's what we need to do. We need to do that, and perhaps there's other things we could do, but that seems to me at a minimum. And if the board approves this, then within the next 30 days, I'll have something for the board for permission to advertise.
And Mr. Chairman, I'd add one more thing to this. We have a lot of properties that developers have come in, done partial improvements, some infrastructure, or they've scraped down, and now they have nothing but weeds and just a total mess. Is there something we can put in this conversation, maybe tonight, maybe not in this one, but that they're going to ensure that the property's going to be maintained, grass cut, and that type of thing? Because we do have some properties that are just being overgrown and becoming an eyesore for the rest of the community, and it's unfair to them.
We can certainly look at that as part of this if the board wants to do that. I mean, I have certainly no objection to it, and if we want to either separate it or combine it with my other suggestion, we could do that.
Don't we already have a little bit of that ability through code enforcement?
We do. We have a property maintenance code. I thought Commissioner Zadowski was trying to sort of tailor this towards the subdivision improvements and maintenance of the subdivision. But yes, Commissioner Mallory, we do have a property maintenance code and we do use code enforcement. But I thought Commissioner Zadowski was asking us to maybe focus a little bit more on the subdivisions. But we can do whatever the board wants us to do on that.
And again, we can bring this back for other issues, but this one's the only one really we have hanging out here. I think we can move forward with this thing tonight and get some assurances for the county.
Any other comment? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, recommend county attorney recommendation.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
There's a second.
A motion, a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. That brings us to the end of our agenda. A couple of announcements related to the St. Lucie County Fair taking place on February the 22nd through March the 3rd at our St. Lucie County Fairgrounds. It's a great time. We also have the New York Mets spring training. That'll be starting on February the 23rd, and that's our 1:30 game versus the Washington Nationals. Our spring training continues through March the 27th. There are 18 home games. Any other announcements that need to be brought before us?
Mr. Chairman, I am participating in a fundraiser. You may have heard of the culture shift in Kids at Hope, and the Roundtable of St. Lucie is raising money to make sure that the Kids at Hope initiative continues on. And I know that Commissioner Hutchinson's been very, very helpful in voting for me
to kiss the pig.
To kiss the pig. Thank you very much. You missed the point. You're supposed to vote for the other people.
It was highly recommended to pick you. I was struggling when someone happened to walk up and say, "Oh, go here."
Well, if the folks at home want to help us to support the kids,
Said correctly, help you kiss the pig.
No, not exactly.
And we'll show it on the screen when you come. Meeting as well.
The Kids at Hope initiative, it really has been very successful in St. Lucie County. We want to continue to create the opportunities to show that all children are capable of success, no exceptions. And again, Commissioner Hutchinson, thank you for your support. Chief Baldwin has indicated that he'd be happy to take some votes. So, anyway, that's what I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it'll be at the county fair on February 22nd through the 24th, and I think the winning pig, hog, I guess is probably more like it, huh? 450 pounds is going to be the pig. So, anyway.
Will you hug it when you kiss it?
Any other announcements? And on behalf of your commissioners, we thank you for attending and for watching. Have a great evening. We are adjourned.